After skipping the T series last year, the OnePlus 10T is here, and while it offers some upgrades over the 10 Pro, you might be wondering what's actually different. Well, here's everything that you need to know. Thanks for watching 9to5Google here on YouTube. Remember to thumbs up, hit subscribe, and then tap the bell icon to be among the first to watch our upcoming videos. When choosing between the OnePlus 10T and the 10 Pro, you'll actually notice some key hardware differences between the duo. Ordinarily, the T series offers improvements over the previous gen, but there's a little extra nuance this time around that you need to be aware of. Luckily, the stature of each device is similar, with 6.7-inch screens and even familiar aspect ratios as 20.1:9 versus 20.9 being the differences here. The OnePlus 10T actually has a more gesture-friendly flat AMOLED panel, which many of you out there will be really happy to hear, while the 10 Pro, as you all know, has a curved display. That's not all though, as while both screens are rated at 120Hz, the 10T is capped at Full HD+. You can tune the OnePlus 10 Pro to QHD+ if you wish, but that will give you the best viewing experience with that device, with some potential battery degradation as a result. The OnePlus 10T internals, they offer quite a step up though over the 10 Pro. This is a newer device after all. A headline addition is that of the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 processor, the latest and greatest from Qualcomm, which does offer some notable performance gains. That's not all though, as you can even get a whopping 16GB of RAM option, which is the most on any OnePlus phone to date, at least as far as we're aware. You do get the advantage of a 512GB storage configuration though on the OnePlus 10 Pro, if you really value onboard storage, but it is hard to deny that the OnePlus 10T has definitely a more enticing set of core specifications. There's also in-display optical fingerprint scanners on both of these phones for biometric access, and both are fast and really fluid. Sadly, the immensely popular signature alert slider though has been removed from the OnePlus 10T, and this means that quickly adjusting ringer settings on the fly does require a device unlock, and it's probably one of those removals that maybe does signal the end of the old OnePlus as we know them. Visually, the OnePlus 10T and the 10 Pro, though they are similar, sharing a design language, but the matte finish on the more premium model is ditched in favour of muted, glossy finishes on the 10T series. This certainly cheapens the look of the OnePlus 10T, but the colour choices are quite similar across the board, with a grey-green and a textured black compared to the matte black and matte forest green of the 10 Pro, so you have to choose wisely which colour you do prefer. You may be aware that OxygenOS 13 was actually announced alongside the OnePlus 10T during the keynote, but it actually won't be coming for a little while yet. So that means that in terms of the actual daily software experience, the 10T and the 10 Pro are now, or at least currently, practically identical. You get access to all of the same core functions and features that we actually detailed in our deep dive into OxygenOS 12 late last year, but this is technically OxygenOS 12.1. No major new features have been added in this version, which is the latest OxygenOS version publicly available, and it certainly resembles ColorOS, which is found on Oppo smartphones. OnePlus has committed to 3 major Android platform upgrades for the 10 Pro and the 10T, and on top of that, 4 years of security patches are also promised, but this often follows a bi-monthly cadence, so not quite as regular as the Pixels and the Samsung phones out there. This means that both devices though will be eligible, or should at least be eligible, up to Android 15 at some point, which will arrive in 2025. The OnePlus 10T does have a couple of distinct advantages over the 10 Pro in the battery stakes, but a few frustrating downgrades that actually might annoy potential buyers out there. While the 10T has a smaller internal cell, which is 4,800 mAh versus 5,000 mAh, the lower resolution Full HD Plus display might help increase longevity. Then when you factor in the 30% CPU power efficiency gains, or claimed efficiency gains, with that Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1, and things kind of start to favour the new model. What's frustrating here though is not the lifespan actually. It's pretty solid across the OnePlus 10T and the 10 Pro, and it's actually the lack of charging options which do really specifically hinder the latest model. There's actually no sign of wireless charging on the OnePlus 10T, yet the feature is available on the vastly cheaper OnePlus 9 from the year previous, so it's a little bit confusing all things considered. Instead, there is a frankly ridiculous 150 watt wired charging available, and with the charger out of the box. In practice, this can fill the battery from 0 to 100% in under 25 minutes, and that's frankly insane to see in practice. OnePlus has said that with enhanced cooling and battery health management, the 10T should retain 80% of its original 4,800 mAh capacity after 1,600 charge cycles with that 150 watt charger, but real world usage might vary quite significantly. We're actually really interested to see how this ages, and so far, so good at this point in time. That actually makes the fast version though of 80 watt or 65 watt wired charging, at least in the US, of the 10 Pro seem actually quite slow. However, it is fast in its own right, and with the addition of 50 watt wireless charging and 5 watt reverse wireless charging available on that Pro model, it's easy to see that more bases are covered, at least for every event charging eventuality. Conversely, this 10T just simply isn't, and at least if you want battery or battery charging flexibility, the 10 Pro is going to be the better option. If you just want raw speed with a wired cable, then the 10T isn't a bad way to go. From a raw camera perspective though, the OnePlus 10 Pro has far greater hardware across the board. An ace up the sleeve of the 10T though is the inclusion of the impressive Sony IMX766 50 megapixel main sensor, which you may remember was actually utilised as a wide angle on the OnePlus 9 series, but is not available on the OnePlus 10 Pro. Comparing the two camera systems side by side is actually a little bit more tricky than you'd expect. The 10T has a better main sensor, but lacks the tuning found on the 10 Pro, even with lower resolution optics being utilised over there. Move beyond the main wide lens though, and it's an absolute no contest. The OnePlus 10 Pro has far greater flexibility with a 50 megapixel Samsung JN1 ultra wide angle sensor, plus the ability to punch in with an 8 megapixel 3.3 times telephoto zoom lens for those extra close-up shots. Annoyingly, there's the addition of a 2 megapixel macro camera on the OnePlus 10T, and it's likely just there to help bolster that camera setup with an extra version so it can call it a triple setup rather than just a double setup, and it doesn't really offer anything great or of great value to people out there, we're sure of that. This is also combined with an 8 megapixel ultra wide, which is average at best and sadly poor at worst. Some of you out there are probably wondering why OnePlus hasn't offered any sort of Hasselblad branding on the 10T, and we don't know either. That actually means that while the camera hardware is fairly comparable, at least from that main sensor perspective, you actually don't get some of the advanced tuning or unique Hasselblad features like X-Pan out of the box. There are a few features though that have made the jump despite the Hasselblad seal of approval on other devices. Both phones include things like dual video support, the interesting tilt shift mode, HDR video recording on top of that, and then a few little things here and there have made the jump. Side by side though, images in this quick gallery will give you a true indication of just what to expect from each camera setup. So let us know what you think down in the comment section below. To summarise, unless you simply must have a flat screen and that latest Snapdragon processor, then we think that the OnePlus 10 Pro, simply put, is just a far better smartphone in almost every regard. The OnePlus 10T lacks a lot of the key features that makes its Pro sibling a proper out-and-out flagship phone that is competitive with the best in the business. While there are some undoubted benefits, it's hard to not feel like the OnePlus 10T is merely a souped-up version of the Nord 2T, with much of what makes that cheap phone a great buy. Of course, there are extra limitations here that make it hard to stomach when the price is so high. In years prior, OnePlus made cutbacks in areas that, upon reflection, have made a lot of sense. With recent launches, it's becoming difficult to see just where OnePlus places itself in the wider smartphone market, and the 10T is testament to that. While it certainly feels like a missed opportunity, if we do see the OnePlus 11 series in early 2023, it could be that this device has been held back to ensure that that upcoming hardware is the de facto flagship. Now that the OnePlus 10 Pro though is available at vast discounts, we think overall, over the 10T, it is a far better buy. So in essence, that's how the 10T stacks up against the OnePlus 10 Pro. It's a half step forward with plenty holding it back. Let me know what you think down in the comment sections below. But as always, this is Damien with 95 Google saying thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will speak to you later.